কি দেখা যাচ্ছে তো?
হ্যাঁ স্যার,
স্ক্রিন
দেখা
হচ্ছে?
যাচ্ছে।
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, চলো স্টার্ট করছি। ওকে। So we have completed discussion up to that particular slide. One thing we know, whether it is a microprocessor or microcontroller, there are two type of memories: the ROM and RAM. ROM read-only memory, whose data can be read only but cannot be written, and RWM read-write memory or RAM, popularly called as RAM. Although there is some small difference present between our RWM and RAM, but in our context, these two are same. Okay. So in read-write memory, anything can be written, erased again, and can be written further. Okay, and things can be read obviously as usual. Now, whatever be the memory, a read-only memory, ROM or RWM or RAM, this particular thing is common that every memory location has a unique identification number called address of the memory. Okay, it is a combination of some zeros and ones, some bits. How many bits we use? In general, m number of bits. M can be anything. If there are 10 bits we use, then different combinations that are possible using 10 bits are, 2 to the power 10. Okay, so all zeros, 10 number of zeros to 10 number of ones, and any combination in between. So that much of memory location, 2 to the power 10 or 1 kilo memory, 1 kilo number of locations can be accessed by taking different combinations. Now for each particular location as identified or addressed by the address bus, okay, there can have a data of 8-bit length, 8-bit data. So 8-bit data exists in every location, and how many location? Obviously 2 to the power m number of location. So the any particular location will be selected by the address bus with certain bit contents. Okay, and once a location is selected, okay, then from the selected location either a one data will be accessed, will be read, or a data will be written into the location. Okay, this length of the data is n bit. Okay, n bit data. In general, when we talk about one 8-bit microcontroller, we refer to the length of the data bus, not to the length of address bus. So when we talk about 8-bit microcontroller, the basic length of data is 8-bit. Our 16-bit microcontroller means basic length of data bus is 16-bit. Okay, so that is this. So size of the memory is the number of memory locations available into the number of data, okay, number of data bits in each location. So in general it is size is 2 to the power m into n. That much of bits are possible. So to specify any memory, first we have to specify its type, whether it is a read-only memory or a read-write memory or RAM. Then comes its address bus, the length of the address bus. Then comes the length of data bus. Okay, so these two things are specified from the by the size of the memory. But one more thing is also very important, that is the access time of the memory. How much time it takes to access one data, okay, one data byte, to read from the memory or to write into the memory location. So that time for reading or writing is called access time. For a fast memory, access time is less, or slow it is more. Now, as I told you earlier, there are two type of memories: read only or read write memory. In microcontroller also these are important. Now there are different versions of read only memory possible. These are given in the list: ROM, PROM, programmable read only memory, EEPROM, erasable programmable read only memory, EEPROM or E square PROM, electrically erasable programmable read only memory, flash EEPROM, and mask ROM. Just let us say some words, okay, for each of them. So ROM is a non-volatile memory, means once we write any data, the data remains permanent within the memory. It cannot go out even when the power is off. So the content is non-volatile. It does not go away. So it's a non-volatile memory. Content remains permanent. For programmable ROM or programmable read-only memory, normally these are one-time programmable memory, OTP. OTP does not mean here one-time password. It is one-time programmable memory. Here, each memory content is protected by, each bit is protected by normally a fuse. When a fuse is blown away, the connection is lost between the content of the data bit and the terminal connection of the memory, so that nobody cannot write anything further, but the external user can read data but cannot write anything. So blowing a fuse means data remains permanent there. Okay, there is a disconnection of write path. So when one data is written into the memory and fuse is blown off, the data remains permanent there. It cannot be changed further. So this type of memory sometimes is also called burning ROM. Regarding blowing fuse and all these things, you will learn lot more in the other part of this subject. That is in the programmable logic part of this subject. I don't want to say all these things because if I say, we will deviate from our topic, our subject. Now our next thing is EEPROM, erasable programmable ROM. Now once a data is stored there, the data can be erased. How the data can be erased further? Actually, within the chip encapsulation, a small quartz window is mounted. Okay, a small quartz window is mounted. If the programmer makes the chip exposed to UV radiation, the UV ultraviolet radiation will penetrate the quartz window and will reach core into the chip to destroy the content, bit content, so that the bit will be destroyed permanently. Okay, so it is the quartz window through which the ultraviolet ray goes into the core of the IC and destroys or erases, okay, the bit content. So program the bit content can be erased. That's why it is called erasable programmable ROM. Once it is erased, again it can be programmed further. Note that once the ultraviolet ray is allowed to hit inside, the entire content will be erased. Okay, but it is a slow erasing process. Okay, the erasing time is few tens of minutes, few minutes to few tens of minutes. Okay, so it may take up to 20 minutes also. So that during that time, the ultraviolet ray must penetrate the IC. So it's a slow erasing. And another difficulty here is that not only the slow erasing, is that once we want to program the memory content further, we have to take the memory out of the board where the memory remains connected normally. So in the application board, when we want to reprogram the memory, we have to take out the memory from the board first. So it will be coming taken out of the board and it will be connected to a programming unit where there is a provision of generating ultraviolet ray to destroy all the content, to erase all the content. So it is a one out of board programming. You have to take out it from the application board. That is another disadvantage. Okay. And the required voltage for programming is few tens of volt, maybe up to 20 to 30 volt. Sometimes 50 volt is also required. Okay. That much of voltage is required to generate the required ultraviolet ray for erasing all the bits. So obviously you can imagine that, you can understand that this is not a comfortable method of erasing the content. So other methods must be required for erasing and rewriting program. To solve the problem then came E-square PROM or EEPROM. One E-square PROM, it is the electrically erasable programmable ROM. Okay. Can you hear me? I think you can
Yes,
hear.
sir.
Okay. So in electrically erasable programmable ROM, okay, some required voltage needs to be applied there, okay, and the content will be erased or destroyed. So multiple write cycle is possible here, multiple erasing or multiple writing of program or anything is possible here. And another advantage is that it is the in-system programming, ISP, means the memory chip need not be taken out of the application board. It remains connected while the reprogramming goes on. That is a great advantage. Okay. And no external programming device is required. Okay. The required circuitry for erasing is already incorporated with the E square PROM IC, okay, as a part of the system. So ISP or in-system programming is supported there naturally. And the programming is extremely fast. But the cost per bit is obviously higher than that of, okay, EEPROM or UV EEPROM. Next comes the flash EEPROM. In flash EEPROM memory, or simply we call it a flash memory, multiple programming or erase option is allowed and the erasing takes less than a second. A very fast erasing process. And the access time of the memory is of the order of 100 nanosecond typically, maybe less also. So it is a very small time is required to access the memory and to read or write data. Okay, but the erasing cannot be made byte based. The entire some block of memory content needs to be erased just in one go of erasing process. Okay, so one block of memory will be erased in one erasing cycle. Not that individual byte is erased, not that flexibility is normally available. But nowadays this is available. Okay, still in that case it will be quite costly. So in system programming again is supported here, and programming or erasing cycle is how much? Okay, it is more than 1 lakh for flash memory or square PROM memory. Means that much of erasing is possible or repetition of cycle is possible. Whereas for EEPROM or UV-PROM, around few thousands or normally typically 1000 write cycle is allowed. So in that respect, nowadays flash EEPROM or flash memory is quite common in application. Now our last thing is a mask ROM. User is not allowed to program again. No erasing is possible. Once some bits are stored there inside the memory content, it is stored during the fabrication of IC in the shop floor, and after that the content will be masked in the fabrication process so that the content is permanent there inside the memory chip, and the data or program remains highly protected. Okay, and it is very much cheaper because everything can be made in the fabrication level. Only thing is that the cheap cheapness is achieved when the production volume is large. For small amount of production of memory, it will be quite costly. The cost cannot be justified. Okay, so these are the summaries of read-only memory type. Now we want to say just again few words on the RAM or RWM, where bits can be erased or overwritten very easily. Again, three type of RAM or RWM is possible: SRAM, static random access memory, NVRAM, and RAM. First, we go to the SRAM, static RAM, random access memory. Here, memory cells are made of flip-flops, and we know each flip-flop is the result of some number of transistors. So to store one particular bit or to generate one memory cell for storing one bit, 6 transistors are required. Nowadays, it is possible to construct one memory cell using 4 transistors also using CMOS technology. A CMOS technology means it is taking power at quite low voltage. Therefore, it is very much power efficient. Okay, not consuming too much of power. A TTL logic, note that, takes volt power in the level of 5 volt. TTL logic, transistor logic, you know. Whereas the CMOS logic, it takes 3.3 volt or 2.5 volt also. In recent advancement, it is taking around 1.1 volt also. Note that as CMOS works in much lower voltage, and we know power consumption is proportional to the square of the voltage. As the voltage level diminishes, the power consumption diminishes also with the square of the voltage level, in proportion to the square of the voltage level. So the power consumption in 5 volt is much higher than the power consumption in 2.5 volt CMOS logic, okay, or 3.3 volt CMOS logic, or 1.1 volt CMOS logic. In 1.1 volt it is even lower because power consumption is proportional to the square of the voltage. Okay, but since at least 4 transistors are required to constitute 1 bit, to store 1 bit memory, 1 bit content, the entire application is not at all space saving. Therefore, in space application, means space means in outside the earth, okay, in outside the earth, when there are a lot of electronics are required, space is an important thing, and they are not also radiation hardened. So the cosmic rays may hit and destroy the bit content outside the outside our planet. Therefore, that is one problem that is not radiation hardened. But in most of our application, a SRAM cell is a fantastic solution. Okay, to construct read write memory. And one problem is that when power is off, data is lost forever. Okay, because the transistors are not getting bias voltage anymore to hold the data bit when the power goes away. So the data will be completely lost. That is one disadvantage. But it may be one advantage also when we need to write program repeatedly. Now NV next is NVRAM or non-volatile RAM. It is quite expensive solution. Non-volatile means the bit content does not go away even when the power is withdrawn, power is removed or lost. So bit remains stored there inside that. Okay. Some one internal battery, lithium battery mainly used. Okay. Wherever there is a sensor circuit present, the sensor circuit senses the bias voltage of the transistor internally. When the bias voltage of the transistor is missing, is not present, then the sensor circuit will automatically trigger the lithium battery, so that now the power will be supplied by the lithium battery, and therefore the data bit will not be lost anymore. Okay, so that is the basic feature of NVRAM, non-volatile RAM. But it is quite expensive, that is a problem. Okay, and its access time is also quite less. Very fast memory this. Our next one or last one is the DRAM, dynamic RAM, dynamic random access memory. Here, basically one capacitor is used here to store each bit. Obviously, the presence of capacitor cuts down the number of transistors required, so cost is much smaller. Okay, higher is the density of the capacitor, more is the number of capacitor inside the IC, cheaper will be the memory. But the capacitor has the tendency to leak off charge, so periodically the capacitor needs to be charged to compensate for the leakage of charge. So a dynamic refreshing arrangement or periodic refreshing arrangement is required to construct to compensate leaking off from the capacitor. Okay. So during the refreshing of capacitor, the data cannot be accessed. But the refreshing cycle is existing only for a very small time. After that, the data can be accessed. Data remains permanent there. Okay. So that is the dynamic RAM. Now we see one another important thing that we need to know before starting the actual discussion of microcontroller. Now the microcontroller is a processor. Any microcontroller is a processor. It processes some job, takes some numbers in bits and bytes, then some mathematical or arithmetic operation is going on, then some other numbers are generated that will be transferred, okay, from the processor to the external world. Now for this processor there are two type of architectures possible. One is called a Princeton architecture or von Neumann architecture. Here what happens, the address bus and data bus, they are connected, they are common For all the external memories, here the memories are normally external. These memories do not exist inside the IC, memory IC or processor IC. These memories are present outside the processor IC. In one single board, the processor IC is mounted as well as external memories are also mounted in a single board. Now all these external memories will be connected to the processor through one address bus and also through one common data bus. So the address bus is common and data bus is common. So there are two sets of buses required. Okay. So the address will be supplied by the processor first or the microcontroller first. It will go to hit all the devices connected externally. Only one location whose bit pattern matches with the bits thrown by the processor, that particular memory location will be activated and that memory location will be accessed. Clear? So here only one location can be accessed by throwing some address in the address bus. So when multiple memory ICs are connected, means when multiple memory blocks are connected, only one memory block can respond at a time. Only one memory block can respond at a time. So that is the disadvantage of this thing. Okay. So simultaneous fetching of code and data are not possible because there is a one memory, dedicated memory that will store our program, and as the dedicated memory is there, that will store the data. Only the number of data will be stored. So either the address bus will carry a particular bit pattern or address for code memory or for data memory, not simultaneously. So simultaneously a code memory or data memory cannot be accessed. Okay. Note that here how many sets of buses are there? Two sets of buses or two buses are there. One common address bus for all the devices, external devices, and one common data bus for all the common devices, memory chips. Now, as the number of buses are smaller here, only two buses are there. One address bus and one data bus. That's all. Okay. So, the amount of cost involved will be quite less. Here, in this particular application, all the memories exist externally. They don't exist inside the microcontroller IC. They exist externally. And since the memories are external, the length of conductor in the buses are also more. The length of conductors in the buses are also more. Okay. Now a of larger length of address bus or data bus means the cost will be more. Okay. But as only two sets of buses are involved, one set has address bus, another set has data bus. Ultimately, cost is not very high. Okay, only two sets, one address bus, another data bus. They are connected common to all the devices, external devices, and only one device can respond, and only one memory location of the selected device will respond at a time. So the amount of cost involved is not very high, quite less, but The memory access may be slower, okay, because only one access is allowed at a given time. Clear? So that is our von Neumann or Princeton architecture. Next we go to Harvard architecture, where there are all the memories are internal to the IC. There is no external memories. As the memories are internal, the length of data bus is quite small because all the memories are inside the IC. The length of the data bus and address bus is in the level of microns and millimeters only, not more than these. So quite small length. So cost is very much reduced here as the length of the conductor is quite small. In these particular cases, two sets of address buses and data buses can be afforded, can be connected. As the length of the conductors are quite small, two sets of address buses and data buses are possible to construct. Okay, one address bus will select only the location of program, the address of program. Another set of address bus will obviously select the location of the desired data. So similarly, only one, okay, data will come from the data memory or code memory. Okay, simultaneously they can come because there are different sets of data bus available for different buses, for different devices. Okay, as the length of the conductor is small, the whole situation becomes cost effective. Okay, now, so that is called the Harvard architecture. Normally, our Intel processors that are used as a general purpose microprocessor in PCs and laptops, they are the Princeton architecture or von Neumann architecture is used because all the memories are external in the motherboard of the PC. Okay, so the wear length is more there, and therefore only one set of address bus and data bus is mounted there. Okay, so Princeton architecture or von Neumann architecture is used there. But in most of the microcontrollers manufactured by other manufacturers, okay, the Harvard architecture is followed. There, in the microcontrollers, mostly the memories are internal to the ICs. So conductor lengths are quite small, so multiple buses can be allowed. The microcontroller that we'll use here in our application, in our discussion will be the AVR microcontroller. In AVR microcontroller, the Harvard architecture is followed. Okay. In PIC microcontroller also, these are not used now, not discussed in now in our course content. There also Harvard architecture is used. But 8051 microcontroller that was traditionally made by Intel, later it was made by many other companies also. There, the von Neumann or Princeton architecture was followed. Okay, but in our case, where we use AVR microcontroller, Harvard architecture will be followed, where multiple address lines, address bus, and multiple data bus are constructed. Now comes a type of architecture also Another type of architecture, also another classification of architecture we can call is a processor can be a RISC processor or a CISC processor. A RISC processor is called, is given here, reduced instruction set computer, and the corresponding processor is called RISC processor. And CISC means complex instruction set computer, and corresponding processor is called CISC processor. Okay. Now in RISC processor, each of the instruction, as it is a reduced instruction set processor, and the corresponding computer is a RISC computer, reduced instruction set computer. The number of instructions are quite small, the size of the instructions are quite small, and the structure of the instructions are quite simple. Okay, in the RISC computer or RISC processor. So each of the instructions carry out smaller amount of tasks. But in complex instruction set computer or processor, each of the instructions can carry out multiple tasks. A single instruction can tell the processor to do, okay, multiple tasks or multiple sequence of tasks, different sequence of multiple tasks. Now in RISC processor, the length of each instruction is more or less same. Okay. Length of instruction means one instruction is a combination of bits and bytes, zeros and ones. So length of each instruction is more or less same. Okay. But in CISC processor, as the instructions are quite complicated and can include variety of tasks, the instructions are normally of varying length depending on its complexity. Now in RISC processor, as the type of the instruction is quite simple, okay, the machine cycles are that are consumed only one or two, not too much. Same number of machine cycles are more or less used. But in CISC, the number of machine cycle involved in one instruction is of varied nature depending on the type of task involved in the instruction. Now in CISC processor, when one instruction is being executed at its one particular phase, the processor can execute at the same time, okay, the phase of another particular task. So parallel processing is supported. The parallel processing is called pipelining. I don't want to say too much of pipelining right now. Okay, pipelining means parallel processing. Why it is called pipeline and all these things, I don't want to say right now because we will deviate to other thing then. Later, we may say this thing. In CISC processor, as the instructions are of varying length, pipelining or parallel processing is not easy. Okay. In RISC processor, there are separate hardware unit to execute instruction. No dedicated memory unit is there to take the instruction from the RISC processor and execute. One separate hardware executes it. But in CISC, a memory unit is there that will take the instruction to its cell, to its content first, then it will be executed thereafter. And in RISC processor, as the type of the instruction is quite simple, the decoding of instruction is quite simple. Decoding means the pattern of the bits and bytes are decoded and the processor comes to know what to do next according to the pattern of bits and bytes. This is called decoding. Knowing the pattern and deciding what to do next is called decoding the pattern. So decoding is possible in RISC. It is simple, but in CISC it is quite complicated. Some of the instructions are simple there in CISC, some are not, some are quite complicated. So decoding takes varying length or varying time also. Therefore, our RISC processors are quite faster because of its faster execution of simple type of instructions. Okay, but for CISC processor normally it is slower execution and therefore it will take more time to execute. Okay. Now the RISC processor, the examples of RISC processor are okay, Intel 8086 architecture, 8086 processor, Motorola 68000 processor. These are RISC, and 6 processor is PEEK, AVR, ARM. These are complex instruction set processor. Instructions can be of quite complicated nature. Our next thing is what will be the criteria to choose a particular type of microcontroller in our required application. Obviously, we know what should be the speed of our application. Accordingly, we can decide a microcontroller depending on its available speed. We can decide a microcontroller depending on the available amount of RAM and ROM, depending on the number of pins available also. When there are more IO program required, input output data is required, probably more number of pins will be required to send data to the outside world and to receive data from outside world. So more pins are to be involved. In that cases, we need a microcontroller of larger amount of pins, IO pin or input output pins. And then availability of other supporting hardwares may be an issue also. Okay, in some microcontroller already some other hardware blocks are present that will assist our job. Maybe some timer hardware may be incorporated inside a microcontroller, one PWM hardware, one PLL hardware, one ADC hardware, DSC hardware, okay, different other type, one USB hardware, DMA hardware, different type of hardware blocks may be incorporated inside so that our headache of writing program will be reduced greatly because once we will trigger the hardware unit will start executing on its own until we stop them further. Okay, so availability of dedicated hardware inside the IC, microcontroller IC is obviously another criteria of choosing it. Okay, and obviously the version compatibility is an important. Sometimes we want to choose one particular version of microcontroller that can be fitted with the existing version of the microcontroller which is already in operation. So the availability and compatibility of version may be an issue of choosing a microcontroller. Then we consider our another important thing is the package available. There are different type of package available. IC, the package of IC, what is the shape of the IC, how pins are arranged inside the IC, depending on a package is decided for the IC. The transistors are encapsulated within the package. The package, different type of packages are possible, but here we will see only two type of package. A DIP, dual inline package, okay, which is shown the shape of the IC will be like that. It will be a rectangular shape of the IC, and pins will come out in a projected manner one by one, and all pins are projected out from two sides of the IC, not from four sides of the IC, only from two sides of the IC. We can take the IC and feed all the pins into the socket appropriately. Now another IC maybe will be is possible with a package of QFP package, means quad flat package. Here pins are coming out of the package from all sides in a surrounding way. The pins are actually mounted in a surrounding manner of the IC, and the shape of the IC normally is of square, maybe rectangular but normally square. So more pins can be mounted there because no sidewise space is wasted. And power consumption is obviously how much power consumption can be allowed or required and how much available inside the IC. Depending on, we can choose a microcontroller. And cost per unit for bulk production and some feature enriched development or the dedicated hardware available, that is also a determining issue. Now, in our case, we will discuss the AVR microcontroller. Now, when we want to buy AVR microcontroller, why AVR microcontroller? We want to take, there are different type of microcontroller available. AVR it is in fact one revolution in the field of microcontroller. We can write program in a high level language like C, okay, in Java or in many high level language, or we can write program in bits and bytes also possible. Okay, so it's very easy to write a program and it can support lot of complicated features that are normally not possible, okay, using other microcontrollers. That's why it is gaining a lot of popularity nowadays. It is so popular that when originally it was made by Atmel, the company Atmel, later microchip was losing its popularity, and therefore microchip it took over this property from Atmel. So nowadays, AVR microcontroller is not the property of Atmel. Atmel has sold it to the microchip, so it is now the owner is the microchip now for the AVR microcontroller. Now there are different versions of AVR microcontroller available. Today I don't want to discuss. Tomorrow I want to take a class and I'll start discussing our AVR microcontroller, its features and all these things. Can you tell me whether a class is possible tomorrow? কাল ক্লাস হতে পারে? হ্যালো,
Yes, sir.
ওই ধরো যদি একটা নাগাদ নেই, তাহলে বিকেলের দিকে হতে পারে? ঠিক আছে, তুমি আজকে যে কোনো এক সময় দুপুরবেলার মধ্যে জানিয়ে দিও, তাহলেই হবে। শোনো, আমার সন্ধ্যেবেলা ক্লাস হলেও কোনো অসুবিধা নেই, বিকেল সন্ধ্যেবেলা ওই সময়টা হলে বরং আরো সুবিধেই হবে। তাহলে আজকে জানিয়ে দিও, তোমার সময় অনুযায়ী আমি তখন অন্য ক্লাস ফিক্স করবো আর কি। হ্যাঁ, ওকে, দুপুরের মধ্যে চেষ্টা করে, যদি বিকেলের মধ্যে পারো আর কি। ওকে, ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ।